Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadership, a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, having spoke 5 stars in 17 countries. And most people know me as the author of Leading Winning Teams, the book right here with Wiley, but also probably my professional career in professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series over 13 years. I am a coach to the 1%. And listen, you are going to love another 1%er today on the show, Darryll Stinson. How are you doing, my man?
Crushing, bro. Let's go. Boss move,
Crushing.
baby.
Crushing. Listen, this is what Michigan kids do for everybody that's out there. All right. I always love having my fellow Michiganders I run into somewhere in the world. And Darryll Stinson and I are no different. Darryll and I grew up about 45 miles apart in very different environments of Battle Creek, Michigan, where I was at. And Darryll is a Jackson, Michigan, Jackson High student and athlete coming out of there, which another pretty big athlete came out of Jackson High, a young man named Tony Dungy. And that guy did all right in the NFL. You follow Tony's footsteps, Darryll. Go on to a college sports career, CMU. You wish you were a Chippewa. He is a Central Michigan University standout playing football. And man, and that's where the journey starts, man. You meet the wife, your parents are alum, and then the world starts and gets going. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's about it, bro.
Yeah, man. And now in Nashville, Tennessee, resident. He's doing it. And Darryll is an international 5-star rated speaker. This guy absolutely brings the noise. Not only a storyteller because he's fabulous at it, but he's a storyteller because he's teaching it. And if you heard my show before, you know I'll know you're an expert when I know you know it when you can teach it. And so not only does Darryll bring this noise every time out on the stage worldwide, great stories, but then he also has that special ability to teach it. Darryll, how'd you develop that skill?
Man, that one I feel like is partially developed and partially one of those things that I was given since birth, right? Like I've always had a natural tact and knack. What is it? Knack or tact? Which one is it?
Both.
Both.
That's good. Yeah, you got a knack for it for sure.
Yeah.
But you got the tact to do it.
There you go. There you go. And so like, man, I can remember like elementary school, like reading like textbooks and being like, man, I feel like I can do something better than this. So it was always just in me. I was always fascinated by it. I always did really well in writing and poetry, creative writing courses. Like I've always excelled at it. And then, my degrees actually in integrated public relations. And when I worked in higher ed communications, our boss was a Hall of Fame journalist. And so I learned directly hand from her. And I remember like turning in news articles and feature stories to her and she just inked that boy with red. And it was like, man, that was my opportunity to get coached by one of the best in the world. Right. So, man, I'm just like really excited to be able to share that gift with people because it doesn't matter how gifted you are if nobody knows who you are. And there's a lot of people that are gifted, but they don't know how to communicate in a way that, brings them greater visibility, helps them cut through the noise so that people can see who they are and know what they stand for and then reach out to ask for help. So storytelling is a skill to help them to bridge that gap.
I love that. For people who do not know, Central Michigan University is one of the top journalism broadcasting schools in the country. When we talk about Syracuse University in Central Michigan, there are probably about 20 sports reporters out there, talking heads that are coming directly out of these schools all the time. Yeah. And the journalism behind the scenes, there are hundreds more because these schools are absolutely providing expertise out of their programs and sending people off into the world. And it's a pretty special place. It's always fun, Darryll, when colleges kind of get that, positive stigma for something that they do so well. And their alum have gone out and done so much in the world. And obviously you followed and done very well in that yourself. So that's a pretty cool thing to be a part of.
Oh, for sure, man. Greatness.
Yeah. So let's talk about football. You go in, you're going to be a Central Michigan Chippewa. It's a good school, MAC school. I also played in the MAC. Darryl and I have tons in common here. And I was a baseball and tennis player, not a football player. If you've met me personally, you'll understand that at 5'6", 175 pounds. And I still have, all my facilities working because I probably wouldn't had I played football in that league.
You're right about
So,
that, boy.
so you did the athletic teams thing. Now, you are now looking back rear view mirror, married a decade, you got 4 lovely children. I mean, you're raising it, you're a dad, you're writing a book. We're all excited about Speak Naked, which will come out next year. Um, man, I want to walk back. I want to take it back. When we go through painful moments on the Winners Find a Way show, I always take back. We're going to review it. We're not going to relive it. But, in August 2012, you had a suicide attempt. I mean, you were a guy and now called a suicide survivor. Had some fabulous people on my show talking about the challenges of this for kids, and it's amazing. And outside looking in, Darryl, man, I got to tell you, you got it all. You're a great looking man. You have been well educated. You got parents that love the snot out of you. You've got a program that is fabulous. You're an expert in your field, and you've taken the athletic accomplishments to the top 2% in the world. And what changes? Where's going on with Darryl that says this isn't what I wanted to be?
Well, I had used sports for my entire life to mask the insecurities that I had inside. I was teased for being a black kid that talked and acted white. I was called homosexual when I wasn't. I was uh, constantly having people try to kick paper footballs through the gap in my teeth. And because of all this social rejection that I had as a kid, I actually changed everything about myself to fit in with other people. The way that I talked, the music I listened to, I changed the way that I laughed, the way that I dressed. I went from an all A student with perfect attendance all through K through 6 to the 7th grade because I changed all this stuff about myself to fit in with other people, getting suspended 10 times from public school systems and having like all C's, right? Like that's the amount of disconnection from myself. So sports was a way that I got love and acceptance. They didn't care if I was talking too white or too black or if I had a gap or didn't have a gap. All they cared about was that I was playing with Antonio Brown and Eric Fisher and,
Yeah.
playing against Draymond Green and these type of players.
Yeah,
And so
tackle people, man. Just do the
exactly,
job. If you do the
exactly.
job, no one cares what you look like.
Sound
You're
like
great.
they love
Yeah,
you, they want to
yeah,
interview you, they care about your family all of a sudden, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so like basically when I had an injury, a back surgery, that took that opportunity for me to hide behind this, identity of an athlete away from me. I could no longer mask that insecurity with that persona.
Yeah.
And I did not know who I was on the inside. And so it was
Mm,
just being disconnected from myself for so long, being too afraid to face like trying to figure out who I was and like the shock that was going to come to people when they realized that I wasn't who they perceived me to be was just too much emotionally. And I had been taught to not deal with emotions. Number one, I thought I wasn't an emotional person. I was told when I was younger that if I cried just a little bit, even after a spanking, that I better be quiet or I'd be given something to cry about. And so
yeah.
I developed
I
a
got that one too.
didn't you? And
That might
so
be that might be a Midwest dad's thing. I don't know. Like, I'll give you something to cry
I think,
about.
I mean, it was a different era. It was a
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
era,
For sure.
but it caused me to suppress my emotion and build a habit to where when I felt emotions come up, I just built like bottled them up versus processed or let them come up out and through. And so,
Let me walk.
man,
Oh,
what?
so,
Yeah, yeah,
this is
yeah.
a challenge for a lot of people
No, it
because
is.
and one of the big challenges that you face is a stigma that you're a defensive end at a major college football program.
Yep. And a
And
black man and all these other things.
oh, listen, you
Yeah.
look like an Adonis physically. You are a man child, and
Mhm.
like they can't imagine or even fathom that the inside doesn't feel as strong as the outside looks, because the outside
Right.
looks like you're a piece of steel, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so you're going through this, and I got a question for you.
What's that?
Um, Young Darryl,
Hmm.
successful, smart student, kicking butt till he's 7th grade. I mean, you're doing all the things that all the adults want you to be. You're a smart kid. You're tracking. You're good to your friends. You've got family. You do this shift. So today, Darryl Stinson is back to being that young man? Have you connected the two now?
Of course.
Yeah. So
Of
you
course.
found out how to get back to that young boy in Jackson, Michigan, who you knew the right things to do.
Mhm.
And back when you didn't care about what everybody thought, you're like,
Yep.
hey, I know internally we're given that, right? We're given
Yep.
discernment. We're given a conscience to choose the right things. We know between right and wrong, even when we're little children. Just,
Mhm.
God places that in us, right? And
Mhm.
so when you have that, you were tracking,
Mhm.
and then the noise starts,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So how do you gap that up, man? How do you gap that? 'Cause it's a long way away. You're probably 22, 23 years old now
Yeah.
as a suicide survivor. You're probably younger than a 13-year-old at 7th grade. So this is a decade of gap that you've been from young Darryl on a mission, on a lost,
Mhm.
a journey away from what you knew to be good and right. How do you get back?
Uh, One emotion at a time.
Mm,
Uh, Whatever you don't express, you suppress. And it's only a matter of time before you explode or implode. I imploded from the years of suppression. So, one emotion at a time, I had to learn to express so that I wasn't storing this up in my cellular memory. And then I was like allowing these emotions that had been suppressed for a decade plus to now come up and out and through my nervous system.
yeah.
So it would start with, okay, here it goes. I feel these feelings of suicide coming up again, or I feel depressed or down, or I'm mad that I got to start at the beginning of an industry and I'm not at the top like I was in sports. Why do I feel that way? Let me journal about it, do some counseling around it. Let me talk to a friend about it. Let me find a way to express it and process it and let it move through versus just like, I shouldn't feel this way. I just
Mm.
want it to go away, or I'll just focus on building my career and then build another decade of suppression, one emotion at a time, expressing how I feel and processing it both with myself, with professionals, and with friends. That's how
Love
you do
it. The show's called Winners Find a Way, folks. And the reason it's called that is because I love the quote. Winners, when shown data that they're losing, find a way to win. I
it.
mean, when we talk about this, Darryl, like this is, you've done the work. It's clear that you've done the work. And um, it's a moment in time. Now over a decade ago, nearly 12 years, over 12 years.
Mhm.
And it's a moment in time. And before we got on, Darryl and I go back a little bit. And before we got on, we were chumming up about our work and everything else. And the recognition that business is going good, man. I got a wife who loves me, and we're great. Just celebrated 10 years, a decade together. It was just exciting. You got kids, you're a loved father, you love your children. I mean, all these things are positive, yet things can get negative, things go, but you've got new tools in the tool belt. That this is a moment in time, and it'll change, it'll get better, just like it's good today. And the recognition that it's good, and the recognition that maybe it won't always be good, right? Like we'll face challenges in this life. Our kids get sick. Our wives get sick. Things happen, and you lose jobs, and we lose and gain relationships in our life. Walk people through how you keep winning through the ups and downs.
Mm. Number one, you've got to reflect, right? We learned this from sports at the highest level. Like when I got
Yes.
into corporate and I would see like we would do like quarterly reviews or like maybe at a high functioning, like they might at the end of the week, like actually reflect in a way that would do improvement. But most people, they're doing performance reviews like every quarter. And you contrast that to sports when you don't even practice. You don't even practice without watching film.
Yeah.
And so it just, one of the ways that you start closing that gap is to become like review your film every single day. So at the end of my day, I take 15 minutes to go like, how did I show up today based upon how I desired to show up? Where can I improve? Did my call go 20 minutes over, not come 20 minutes over? Did I actually say something authentic, or did I try to pretend to be another speaker? Like just hyper assessing every little flaw and shortcoming and place that I can improve. and then looking at the things that worked really well and go, how do I duplicate more of it? We know this from like teams like an Appalachia State who, they're like a one-time wonder where they do something amazing versus like an Alabama that will like consistently is on top every, often. Probably shouldn't have used them. Now they're getting their butt kicked this year.
Yeah. Well, first time they have made the playoffs in like, 2 of the last 12 years, right? So
we got to know how to compete.
And it's in my book, right? It's in my
Yep.
book. Like, we are so good in sport. We review the tapes. We review the tapes. We go back, we look, we become aware. And here's the beautiful thing, people.
Yeah.
The film, the tapes, they do not lie. The video does not lie. I can sit there and I can go, hey, Coach Stinson. No, man, I was right in position. I was right where I was supposed to be. And Coach Stinson coaches up a lot of speakers like guys like me. Yeah. And so I'll be like, oh, man, I came out on fire front and center. And you're like, hey, man, you're at the back of the stage and your elbow's hitting the curtain and things are flying. People are distracted by what you're doing back there. They think you're stumbling over a microphone. Are you caught in the cord back there? And I'm like, it was perfect. You're like, yeah, let's go to the video. Oh, yeah, I see the curtain moving in the back. That's probably distracting for a lot of people. Like, yeah, it's distracting. So and by the way, one of the things that I found that's a real challenge in a corporate environment is, as athletes, we love the feedback. We got used to it. We were like give me the answers.
Something's wrong if you don't get it.
Yeah. Tell me what's up, man. Tell me what I could have done better. I'm learning, man. I want to keep shaping. You keep polishing this stone, man. You're like a diamond cutter for me, right? And so you're doing this stuff. And then I get people, man, on my teams, like the teams I'm coaching out in this world in the corporate. Like, whoa. Hey, I don't know all the feedback on our quarterly reports because I just report the way I report. And if you guys got a problem with it, you guys should tell somebody else because I'm not listening. The bank wants it a different way.
Right.
And when we sell this thing, it's got to look a little different way. And so we got to all get better. So we're ready to position ourselves all for success. And we got one person who's like, well, I'm not interested in the feedback. I don't know if I'm interested
or they sandwich the feedback, compliment, feedback, then compliment, because and it lessens the thing that you're supposed to do. Versus in sports, like it was the opposite. We don't sandwich the compliment. We actually we provoke you to action, right? I remember my coach came and showed me my get off, and the a-hole did it in slow motion in front of the whole team. He's like, let's watch Stinson get off, everybody. And he pressed it play, and like everybody was like, oh, it looked pretty decent. He's like, no, watch this. So he puts it in slow-mo, and he goes, can you guys hear that? Beep, beep, beep. Acting like I'm moving like a dump truck.
Wow.
I tell you what, how fast you think I got off the next
Listen, we're not running through this video review again in front of the whole team, right?
Exactly.
Like there is a internal motivation and pride. You are not going to be embarrassed in front of your friends, your boys, your guys.
Right.
Like, this is who you go to battle with. And the last thing you want them to think is that you're not firing, right? So when Coach Stinson talks about as a player getting off, like the defensive end, they are watching this. Hey, listen. At the point that ball moves, right? And they're looking right down the line. When that point that ball moves, how quick, where's your foot, where's your shoulder, where's your head, what are your arms doing? How much arm swing are you getting? There are probably 92 points they're referencing right now. And when it's really crappy, it's a long discussion when he's got to point out 70 bad things, right? And so you're like, let's not do this again. I'm going to be a whole bunch of different now because it's embarrassing, right? Yeah. So, all right. So you come in and, man, as a suicide survivor, right? And having played with these high performers, you have hyper learning skills. You have it in you to accomplish things in your life. How's the turn work? How do you turn that? Get back the focus and get back to young Darryl?
Yeah, well, number one, you got to find your lane, your purpose. So I found that. Like, I knew I had it. I knew it innately. Like how you said we were born with discernment. There was like a part of me that knew I was supposed to be a speaker,